Never, ever, 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 ever buy a 454 stroke dirt bike for your first bike. It's your first dirt bike. It's not your last dirt bike. You're gonna have a lot more of these things and you're putting way too much pressure on yourself. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I think the biggest question that I've gotten over all these years is, Kyle, I'm getting back into dirt bikes. What dirt bike should I buy? Or I'm 14 years old. What dirt bike should I buy? Or I'm 30 years old. What dirt bike should I buy? And what happens is we put way too much pressure on ourselves and we're like, I'm gonna buy this bike and I'm gonna have it forever. I'm gonna ride the wheels off of it. And you think because it's anywhere between 5 grand to 15 grand, whether you're buying like used or whether you're buying like the special limited edition thing that you're gonna spend a ton of money on, it's a big chunk of change. And so what we tell ourselves in our head is, this is gonna be my last dirt bike, so I gotta make the perfect decision. And then you research so much, you go into like paralysis. It's like analysis or paralysis by analysis is how I talk about it. And so we're literally spending so much time and so much mental energy just trying to figure out the perfect dirt bike because we're gonna have it forever. And I've got news for you guys. I'm gonna tell you some bikes to buy here, but I got news for you. You're gonna have this bike for anywhere from 1 year to 3 years. It's 2 to 3 years, maybe even 4 years is the longest year most people are gonna have these dirt bikes. And then you're gonna try something different, either because you had a 125 at first and you wanna try a 250, or you had a 250 and you wanna try a 350 or a 300 two-stroke or whatever. There's 1,000 reasons, but you're gonna change bikes. So this bike that you're researching for to buy, this is not your be-all end-all bike, and you're not gonna have this thing forever. I mean, I know there are some people that buy something and never sell it, but you're not going to have it forever. You're gonna have this bike for 1 to 3 years, and then you're gonna find something new. That's how this works. So, and it's not like every time you buy it, you're out all the money. You're going to save some of that money, or you're gonna have some of that money still left up in the value of that machine. So let me just use some round numbers. You buy the bike, let's just say it's for $10,000. You ride it for 2 years. You sell it for $7,500. You lost about $2,500 of value on the bike. I'm just using some general terms here, but you still have that $7,500 to put towards the next one. So if you just save up a little bit of money each month or whatever, you still can go out and get that next dirt bike in 1 to 3 years. That's just kind of how this works. So let's talk about what some of the best dirt bikes are for beginners in our sport. Hey, before we get too deep into this, if you want to support what's happening here with Dirt Bike Channel, the best way to do it is to use the links right down in the video description for Rocky Mountain ATV, or you go to my website, dirtbikechannel.com. There's a shop Rocky Mountain ATV. You click on that, and then anything you buy at Rocky Mountain ATV comes back, gives a kickback to Dirt Bike Channel. It's the only reason you're even still watching this video. And I would thank you so much, because it doesn't cost you anything. So use that link, thanks. Some of this is gonna depend on how much you weigh and how tall you are, but I'm just gonna talk about somebody who's at least 5'6" and above, so you can buy a full-size frame. Let's talk about some of the bikes. Most of the time I'm gonna suggest a 125 two-stroke or a 150 two-stroke, or a more mellow 250 four-stroke. So I break this kind of up into like trail bikes that are made for just going slow and being pretty gentle, or the more race-bred performance bikes. Okay, so let's talk about some of the more trail bikes. I'm only gonna list like 2 or 3 here, and a lot of these are gonna be used bikes that aren't necessarily the current bikes. If you're gonna go look at some of these trail bikes, I'm gonna say in the old used market, a Honda CRF 250X. They were fantastic bikes. They don't make them anymore. They still make the 450X. Do not buy a 450, no matter what, no matter what. I don't care who you are. Never, ever, 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 ever buy a 454 stroke dirt bike for your first bike. Please do not do that. Give me a call, schedule a call with me. I'll tell you why. Never, ever, ever do that. But this Honda CRF 250X is a good trail bike. They don't make them anymore, again, but you can find it in the used market. Another one is the older Yamaha WR250Fs. Now, the new, in the last like 5 years, the Yamaha WR is essentially the Yamaha 250 FX, and I will get to that in a second, but that's a whole different classification. And then another one that I would say is a great trail bike, mellow trail bike, is the Beta Xtrainer. Okay, so Beta, it's a 302 stroke, but it's really detuned. It's got a little bit smaller frame. It's not my favorite motorcycle, but as far as for trail bikes, that's kind of what you're looking at. There's a ton of other things we could talk about, but I don't really like this, like the really super low performance ones, like I'm not a big fan of like the Kawasaki KLX 300 or like I'm not a super big fan of a Yamaha TTR 230 or the Honda CRF 230F or whatever, or the 250Fs. Like, I'm just not a super big fan of those because I worry that if you buy that bike, it won't light your fire because they don't have good brakes, they don't have like snappy motors, they don't have good suspension, and I worry that it won't light your fire and you're like, dirt bikes suck, because you have like a bike that isn't exciting. So anyway, I'm gonna focus mostly on now these more high performance bikes. This is where I love, because we're talking about more high performance bikes, things like you see here on the channel here. This is this KTM 250 XC. Let's talk the very first thing that I'm gonna say to most people. A 125 two-stroke like a Yamaha YZ125 or YZ125 X, that's the more trail version of it, off-road version of it. That's a fantastic motorcycle to go with. Also, KTM 150 XCW. They still make their 150 and they make a 125 XC. So if you get a KTM 125 two-stroke or a Yamaha 125 two-stroke, money, absolute money. Kawasaki doesn't really make their KX 125 anymore, but you could still find that maybe in the used market. So 125 two-stroke, yes, they were made for racing. Yes, they were made for motocross, but you can do a lot of things to these bikes to make them a little bit more suited for off-road riding, or even maybe you are gonna do the track. So YZ125, unbelievable. KTM 150, unbelievable. Now, and Gas makes it, Husky has like a 152. So those would be my first recommended bikes. Now, if you're a little bit bigger guy, maybe you're 200 pounds plus, we might want to talk about a 254 stroke for your first bike, okay? The Yamaha YZ250 FX, fantastic bike. KTM makes a KTM 250 XCF, that's a fantastic bike. These are great. Even if you want to go with the Honda CRF RX is their motocross bike that they've kind of made into an off-road bike. You've got the Kawasaki version of it, the KX250X. Those are all great bikes. So we're talking about 254 strokes. They're a little bit more power, and I don't recommend anything more than that to most riders. However, if you are a full-grown male who is 30 or more, so your brain is fully developed, and you have had some experience on some other machines, especially some machines that had some power, you might be able to just start out on a 300 two-stroke or a 252 stroke. Probably not the greatest one is the YZ250. It's something that you could do, but that's a very snappy motor that was made just for motocross. They make a 250X version of it, a YZ250X. That's something that you could do. But again, these 252 strokes and 302 strokes as your very first motorcycle, I really hesitate, without talking to you personally on the phone and hearing your prefrontal cortex fully developed, I'm not going to suggest that to anyone in their teens. If you're a teenager in the sound and you're listening to this, do not get anything bigger than a 125 or 152 stroke. We could even do a 200 two-stroke, like a Beta 200 RR. Fantastic bike. I love the Beta 200 RR. So if you're a teenager, nothing bigger than either a 254 stroke on down, okay? You could do the 202 stroke, the 152 stroke, the 125 two-stroke, all of those bikes, money. And for most full-grown men that are 200 pounds and under, that 125 two-stroke, yeah, it will still carry you around, and you're gonna learn a ton from that 125 two-stroke, or the 150 two-stroke, or the 200 two-stroke. And then there's some of you out there that could ride a 252 stroke if you're a full-grown man, like you have dad bod, you know, and you've got fully developed brain, you might be able to do a 250 like a 250 XC, 250 XCW. That's the KTM off-road enduro version. That'd be the better one, 250 XCW or 300 XCW. Those are fire freaking breathing dragons, and you would never outgrow that as far as like need more power. Here's something else to notice. You won't, when you get that new dirt bike, it won't be because you're too good for the one that you bought. You'll just want something different. I've seen people ride TTR 230s, which is a crappy trail bike that I'm not really a fan of, but it is a trail bike that you could go out and buy for your first bike. But I've seen guys ride the wheels off those things faster than I could ever ride anything. So when you want to move to a new bike in 1 to 3 years or whatever it isn't because now you've like gotten all the potential out of the bike that you have. You just want to try something different, and that's totally fine. But it's not because you've outgrown. You can outgrow the suspension on a TTR 230, but then again, like I said, I've watched people who are way better riders than me do things on a TTR 230 I cannot do. So you're not going to outgrow the capability of your motorcycle, but you just might want to try something different, and that's totally okay. That is 100% okay. It's okay to want something new and fresh. But on that first one, be very careful if you're going to get a 252 stroke or a 302 stroke. You've got to be basically a dad and a full-grown man, and you've got to have some wisdom. None of you teenagers need that. I don't care what your mom said. I don't care what your dad said. I know you can ride a 450. I know you can ride your dad's 252 stroke, but that doesn't mean that you should. I've got a 17-year-old son. He's been riding since he was 5. He's still on a 252 stroke.
I meant to say 254 stroke. That's what he's riding, is this 250 SXF 4-stroke.
And my son, who's almost 15, he's on a 125 2-stroke. Yes, they can ride 252 strokes. They can ride 450s, but that's not what they're on. Walk before you run, okay? Here's a great one, Sherco 300 SEF. It's a 300 4-stroke. That's a fantastic bike. Another one, this is a weird one, Beta 390 RR. You could have that as your first bike if you're a full-grown man and you want a 4-stroke that has a little bit more grunt. I know I said don't buy 450s, and I'm sticking with that, but this Beta 390 is this kind of like weird unicorn thing. So you could get either the Sherco 300 SEF 4-stroke or this Beta 390. Send me an email if you want. It's Kyle at Dirt Bike Channel. I can send you a list of all these bikes, or we can have a phone call. You can click on my website to like book a call, and we can talk through all this stuff. But I'm basically going to tell you what is in this video. So I've been doing this a while. I know what bikes are good and I know what bikes are bad as your first one. And you've got so many questions. I just want to help, okay? So if you watch to the end of this video, you're a true trooper. I love you guys. This KTM 250XC, the sweepstakes for this ended in June. I'm just waiting to get the finalists for this thing, and we'll find out who wins this bike. I don't have another bike on tap for September. I didn't sit there and cry for me Argentina at the end of the sweepstakes, but I'm like, this isn't going well. It's the worst sweepstakes I've ever done, I think, other than that Stark Varg, but I've had a few of them where it just didn't work, and I got to do something else. So I'm working on another business that I want to try to do some content for other people. So any support you offer is great, because Dirt Bike Channel can't continue the way it is right now. It's not paying for the bills, and I'm just dipping into my savings, and that's a horrible, horrible feeling. So anyway, please use that link for Rocky Mountain ATV if these videos mean anything to you at all. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help. And let's have a phone call if you want to chat about this stuff. I have some knowledge. If you're coming into this sport, you don't even know what you don't know, and I can help you with a lot of those things. And just put your mind at ease on what to buy as far as a bike or boots. I don't have boots on, but I'm looking at boots over there, or helmets or gloves or riding gear, all this stuff. I can help you with a lot of that stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, until next time, leave a single track.